Okay, hi. We always do recap from our incredible event. We always love to recap the event. So you guys send in leads. So these are the FISBO leads that we like. And so we did an event on Monday and we called a bunch of FISBO leads. And so let me talk about one of the deals. This deal, it was an inherited property. Lynette was talking to one of the sons of the mom and dad who had passed away. This was actually the house he grew up in. And you can tell a lot just by reading the Zillow ad. So I want you to make sure you read the Zillow description. A lot of times you can get some really good notes and ideas just off of that. So reading that Zillow description, it said, my dad used to have fruit trees in the back, and we had fruit when we were kids. And so obviously that tells you, this is a person who has an emotional connection to the house. They usually want to feel like it's going to a nice family or something. So you always want to say, oh, this is going to be so nice. We're going to fix this house up. A nice family is going to be in there, and really help them feel good about the sale emotionally, since they're emotionally tied to the house. That's where the house they grew up in. Okay, so that's why you want to make sure that they feel like you really care about the house and you're really going to put a good person in there who's really going to take care of the house and all that. And a lot of people like the idea that we're helping people who have been through a rough patch. We're helping them claim the American dream of home ownership. So if you say, sometimes people really actually get behind your mission to help people and actually feel good about it and feel, wow, so somebody's going to move into this house and they maybe have a little credit challenge and you're going to help them get qualified and then own it. Yes. So now usually we don't get into that whole story, about what we're going to do with the house. But if they're curious and I feel like that they would respond well to that, then I will let them know that's our plan. So now in this case, would you rather, if you take over a mortgage for 76,000, you could literally maybe clean out the house, but turn it around in like a week, throw it up on Zillow and throw it back up on Zillow. So when you buy it, remember, when you go over to the house for the deal meeting, at the end of the deal meeting, you're having them turn over the Zillow listing and the next door listing to you. This is really important. This is a stick campaign that's very important in your to make sure that they don't, keep taking calls on Zillow. So, you don't want any more people calling them after you have left, because you don't want them to, mess with your deal. So basically, you're going to have them turn over the Zillow listing. They have to check sold and they have to check release the listing. Then you're going to go in there and claim the listing and take it down. Okay. And then remember, in about a week or two, it's going to go back up at a higher price. So we want as much time between it going down and coming back up as possible. That's why I want to make sure you claim that Zillow listing. So on this particular one, we have a choice. We're taking over a mortgage at 76,000. We can either just sell it out of work for equity after we clean it out, spend a few $100, get any junk that's in the house out, but you're not doing any work. You're not fixing up the house. You're not carpet paint, none of that. You're just cleaning it out and then getting it back on the market as fast as possible. Now, you usually will not collect as big a non-refundable option deposit on a house like this. What's our asking price? Okay, now if I'm going to offer it on a work for equity, I'm going to do it at 109,000. Okay, now you can see the different approaches here. Now that's how you write it up. If you are trying to figure out a deal, I want you to use that format. What you're doing is you're writing how much you're asking. If we're doing the work for equity, I'm going to ask 109.9 because it's not in as good shape. But if I fix it up, I'm going to ask 129.9. And you know what, guys? I might even push that to 139.9. But let's be conservative. Let's say 129.9. Now, I would expect to get hopefully $20,000. I would hope to get 15,000 down on that. Okay, now if I'm doing a work for equity, I want to make sure they have enough money to do the work, so I might just settle for 10,000 on that one. Usually you're going to get a little less down when the house needs work than if the house was in perfect condition. Okay, then the seller, the buyer still owes us. In the scenario of the work for equity, they still owe us 100,000. In the scenario where we fix the house up, they owe us 115,000. But remember, we put something like 10,000 in. So yes, are we 5,000 on the plus side? Yes, and then we can ask more for the house, and then we have a bigger back end. So we have a back end of 29,000 here versus 24,000 here. So basically it's about a $10,000 difference. You can make about, if you do the work and put the work in, you can make about 10 grand more. So usually guys, if I'm looking at a house either way, we're almost always going to do the work. Because if I put 5 or 10,000 in, I can for sure raise the price 20,000. And that means I'm going to make maybe 15 or 10 or 15,000 more off of the house than I would have. And we have such a good Pretty House Polish crew set up that all we have to do is send them texts and say, go, this is the house and can you do it next weekend? And here's the address. And they all know what we like. So who is on your Pretty House Polish crew? You've got an interior painter, and they probably just do all white. And maybe you tell them to do one accent wall. That's what we like to do. But remember, they're just getting in there and spraying it all white. And then maybe they paint one accent wall. It's a little more expensive, but if they make one wall maroon or coffee brown or something, sometimes it looks nice. It opens up the room, makes it feel bigger, and it adds a little. Or you could do some kind of a sculpturing or anything. Ask your painter, your interior painter, what could you do to make it a little bit nicer that would be inexpensive just on one wall? And maybe they'll do some really nice sculptured pattern or something that looks cool. So, but so you're going to have an interior painter, you're going to have a flooring installer. And again, you're just going to text these people and give them an address. They're going to know what you like. Now, normally with flooring, it's carpeting and luxury vinyl plank. Tile is too expensive usually, unless there's already tile in there. If there is tile in there and there's a broken tile, there's almost always replacement tiles in the garage, we find. And so, but usually luxury vinyl plank or some not too expensive carpeting. Spend the money on the pad though, because if you're walking on carpet with a really nice pad, it feels much more expensive if it's cushy like that. Okay, and then the next person you're going to have is a countertop person. Maybe granite countertops or some kind of countertops. Granite, if they can get good deals, if they can go to Granite Remnants, type in Granite Remnants, go to Google and type in Granite Remnants in your city and see what's there. Okay, so I want you to do that. And then the other people on your Pretty House Polish crew is a landscaper, a handyman, and some cleaners. So basically you just get your house, and if you're going to do the work, you just call all your Pretty House Polish crew and get them over there as soon as you can, as soon as you own the house. And if you are not going to do the work, you don't have to call any of those people. You just have to get the house cleaned out. And so, and then just put it right back on the market. But again, you're going to ask less. In our scenario here, it would be 109,000 asking price versus 129,000. And so again, you decide what you want to do. And if you don't have the money or the time or whatever to do it right now, then you can just turn it around and do a work for equity. And normally these are just cosmetic work for equities. These aren't houses that need a new roof and new, AC unit, stuff like that. It's usually just cosmetic work, the Pretty House Polish things. Okay. So this is all great. Hey, great guys. Thank you for letting me know there was no sound. Good morning. Happy Friday. I have a seller that okay to sell on lease option because she wants a new house, and the bank will give her a loan if she shows that house is leasing. How to convert it to wrap right after. Okay, now listen guys, one of the great things we used to be able to do, and mortgage companies were flexible on this, like this lady's. So this lady's working with a flexible mortgage company where all they need to take that debt out of her debt ratio for this house is a lease agreement. So that's great. It used to be that all the mortgage companies would take that. And so anytime you wanted to buy a house from someone and they couldn't qualify for their next house because of it, you would just generate a lease agreement and show it to their lender, and the lender would take 75% of that debt out of their debt ratio so they could qualify. They got a little bit more strict after 2008, and FHA usually wants to see 12 payments made by somebody else before they will take it out of your debt ratio. But obviously this lady's mortgage company is flexible, and all she needs to show is a lease agreement. And so you're going to write up a lease agreement, and I want you to, you're going to use, when you're selling, I want you to use there's 3 documents. You're going to use the real property possession and lease agreement, Then right behind that is the lease rider. And then right behind that is the purchase option agreement. So that's the set of paperwork you use when you're selling. But when you're buying on lease option, you use the lease with option agreement. So it's built into one agreement. The lease and the option are in the same agreement. So if you are going to do a lease, and there's reasons to sometimes do a lease purchase, like this reason right here, but also if someone wants a huge down payment for selling on seller financing and you get almost no down payment on lease purchase, you can do that, or avoid high transfer taxes, or if the seller's freaked out about the due on sale clause. Those are reasons why you would do a lease purchase. And then all you got to do is write up a purchase and sales agreement where you're converting your lease purchase. Okay, so basically write up as if you didn't even do the lease. Write up the exact seller financing deal that you want to do, and then right behind it, as soon as the mortgage company says yes, just go in behind it and sign that with the seller. Okay, if that's the way you have to do it because of the mortgage company. Okay. All right, the information is gold. Yes, it is. So guys, I love it when you're here. I love it when you're focused. How much usually, guys, depending on the painting, you can maybe get the whole place painted, interior painted for under $2,000. Sometimes cheaper than that. It sort of depends on how much needs to get painted and how big the interior is, and do they have vaulted ceilings, and do they have to paint the ceiling? Sometimes they have to paint the ceiling because there was a smoker in there. And so, but if you can find something, I would feel comfortable at like 1,500. But check it out and see what you can find. 2,000 is probably not unreasonable, but certainly you want to keep it under $2,000 for an interior paint job, unless you got some really big house. Okay. But you guys can check around on that and see what's in your area. Every area can be a little bit different. DB Private Money. Good morning, Brian. All right, you do, man. Great to see you here, DB. Keep coming and commenting. Remember, guys, I don't know you're here if you don't comment. So that's really great when you comment. I have one in the pipeline with a mortgage of 170, R of 230, needs polish. That's exactly what we're talking about here. That's exact. Now, in that case, guys, you got enough spread where I would definitely put the money in. I'd put 10 grand in because, I probably could get 100. I could probably get 200 as a work for equity. So if the mortgage is 170, I would probably price it at 199.9 as a work for equity. Okay. And because you're giving them a decent discount off of that R, but if you put the work in, you might be able to push this thing to 249, depending on how it shows and how hot the area is. You might really be able to push this thing all the way up to 249.9 if you do the work. Whereas, so that's a huge spread, the difference between doing the work and not doing the work. So yes, I usually do the work. Of course, we have a great team that I really trust and is very affordable. Okay. So remember that, yes, lease first. And then after she gets approved, just follow it right up with that standard purchase and sales agreement. And if she understands that that's what you're doing in order to satisfy her mortgage company, she should be good just going ahead and signing that purchase and sales agreement as soon as she gets the financing on her other property. Okay. So yeah, that's an interesting deal, but that's why we're so good at, guys. And that's why, normal investors would look at something like that and just throw their hands up and walk away. Whereas if we get into it, we can work it out, and we're clever with the financing and that. And so we always can work out something special. So great questions today, Lucky. And always great to see you guys. And I love talking about deals. But you can see on this deal again, our back end profit, they're giving us 10 or 15 down. We still owe some. And then our back end profit is 29 on the one we did the work on, 24 on the work for equity. But you guys decide. It's different exit strategies. And if you don't have the money to do it, then the choice is kind of made for you. But I definitely, if you do have the money and the time, it is worth it. Usually you're going to make more money. It's worth taking a few more days. Plus you're giving your folks work. You're employing people, and you're going to make the profit back, probably going to double your profit. So awesome. So guys, I have our affirmation for today is I love doing deals. 3 times on 3. Ready? 1, 2, 3. I love doing deals. I love doing deals. I love doing deals. Okay, 3 deep breaths. Nice deep breath in. Good. Hold it a little bit and then okay, another one. And let it go. And then one more. Great job, everybody. All right, I will see you guys on Monday. Let's get some great deals done. And you can always ask me deal questions. I love taking questions. Until I see you Monday, keep expecting success, getting awesome training from the Wolf Couple, and